So, yeah, let's get right into this. So, we all know the story about how George Lucas has said he sold his child to the white slavers, basically, and to how he felt about how he felt about the sequel trilogy, and how he felt about how they wanted to basically do a rehash film, and how he had ideas and they scrapped it and whatnot. But Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, came out with a book called The Ride of a Lifetime, decided to have a chapter about Star Wars, which basically might as well translate to translation, how we fucked up Star Wars and how we fucked over George Lucas, how we fucked over the fans, how we fucked over everyone else, um, about this entire franchise and what Star Wars meant to people. Like, back then, yeah, people didn't like the prequels and whatnot. I'll get to that. But yeah, it was sewed in this excerpt of a book, and I must stress this, a couple months left before episode 9, and they definitely should not have published this until after the movie, because now they just risked the movie's financial betting. So this is what was revealed in the book. In this excerpt here, we decided we needed to buy them. The chief exec writes on the decision made with the studio head Alan Horn, though we made it clear in the purchase agreement that we would not be contractually obligated to adhere to the plot lines he laid out. Because basically, when George Lucas made this outline for what was his version of episode 7 through 9, where from what the little details we got was basically to focus more on the microscopic and quantum feeling of the Force and show a more mythical aspect and more scientific aspect of it, focusing on the Guardians of the Wills, you know, those creatures we saw in Star Wars The Clone Wars. It was supposed to go in that direction, and I think now that you watch The Clone Wars, you actually understand now, like, oh, that's why. So basically, you had this idea going on with George Lucas, how he wanted to explore on a new bunch of characters while paying respect to the old characters, how this would go. But he didn't really want to write it anymore, direct it and whatnot. Like, I don't know. Then Disney was like, hey, we want to do this. But then they pointed out that we are not contractually obligated to do this, but, we'll do a handshake agreement. And yeah, then when J.J. Abrams and Michael Adred met with George Lucas to discuss the new trilogy, specifically the 2015 installment, George was immediately pissed off as they described the plot, and was dawning on him that, yeah, we were tossing your scripts in the trash. Everything you wrote, we're throwing it in the garbage. And yeah, but like, here's the thing: he was told that the reason why they were buying Star Wars was specifically because he wrote these treatments. He wrote this outline, his plan of how he viewed episode 7 through 9. And yeah, Bob Iger revealed that George Lucas felt betrayed while this whole process would never have been easy on him, we'd gotten off to an unnecessary rocky start. But he even then admits that George knew we weren't contractually bound to do anything, so basically I have full legal rights to be a massive dick. And how he thought that buying the story tunes was a promise that we followed them, and that he was disappointed that his story was being basically tossed to the garbage. Bob Iger said that I had been so careful since our first conversation not to mislead him in any way, and I didn't think I had now, but I could have handled it better. But never in this excerpt that he ever says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I fucked you over. I'm sorry I pissed everyone off. But yeah. So, yeah. So in George Lucas's viewpoint, he had told Bob Iger straight up, there's nothing new. In each of the films in the original trilogy, it was important to him to present new worlds, new stories, new characters, and new technologies. In this one, he said there weren't enough visuals or technological leaps forward, and yeah. And he wasn't wrong, so Disney is basically admitting, yeah, we knew, we don't care. But he also wasn't appreciating the pressure we were under to give adherent fans a film that felt quintessentially Star Wars. Okay, when it comes to making Star Wars, you you could do anything you want with Star Wars so long as the core principles of it was intact. And here's the thing. Iger suggests that Lucas just didn't fully appreciate what Lucasfilms and Disney were trying to do with the new trilogy, and admits that, yeah, The Force Awakens was intentionally creating a world that was visually and totally connected to the earlier films to not stray too far from what people loved and expected. And George was criticizing us for a very long time of what we were trying to do. And I'm reading this off my iPad. So, you admitted that, yes, we rehashed the film, we rehashed episode 4, just because that's what people loved, and everyone just hated the prequel, so we had to omit that. So, yeah. This... And then, Dan Bob reveals this. So, he stays away from agreeing with the criticism of the book and promoting its release. He has accepted that Disney's plan of releasing a new Star Wars show every single year might hurt the property. No, I can't believe it. Call of Duty is an example. Oh my god. Medal of Honor is an example. Oh my god, I never saw this coming. I just think we put a little too much in the marketplace too fast. Bob Iger told the New York Times in a profile published over the weekend, while adding, I think storytelling capabilities of Lucasfilm are endless because of the talent we have at the company, and the talent we have at the company is better than it's ever been. It's in part because of the influx of people from Fox. And a rep from Lucas told the Hollywood Reporter that the Star Wars creator had no comment on Bob Iger's book. So that's basically the excerpt. So what this basically says, down to its bare bones, that yes, The Force Awakens was deliberately made to just be cash cow. And Jeremy Johns made a video about it and was looking very heartbroken about it, and I wouldn't blame him, because now he realizes this recontextualized what he thought of The Force Awakens, and like the writings on the wall, like you were getting the alarm bells, but you didn't know because you had faith that Disney would try and do something to make Star Wars. But now it's like everything that, like, they realize, like, okay, basically this is like what happened when DC rebooted the universe of DC Comics, and Jeff Johns had to come in and basically said, hey, this was an inherently stupid idea, so let's fix it. And then subsequently went to go save the DC Cinematic Universe, and then the DC Comics division under Dan DiDio decided to shove up its own ass. So, yeah, that's basically what it is. And yes, I quoted Lin Carr when he basically described how DC Comics' division is kind of messed up at the moment. But yeah, this is basically where this is going. So, Disney admits, the CEO, so basically it's Disney, admits, yes, we fucked over George Lucas, but we wasn't contractually obligated, so basically we can do whatever we want. And it's like, yeah. And now, like, I look at the Clone Wars Return and think, that's your damage control. You know people love the Clone Wars. You didn't love the Clone Wars. You thought it was too violent. You thought it was not for the kids. So you got rid of it because it doesn't fit your Disney agenda. If this was the 90s, you would have been totally cool with it because you made a movie about the Hunchback of Notre Dame, reworked the ending a bit, but still made it dark, malevolent, and whatnot at times. Especially when you have a religious judge trying to sexually charge himself with a young woman through force and intimidation, and luckily failed. But yeah, and considering how the book really was, yeah, let's not get into that. But yeah, the fact that this is now confirmed now makes you look at Star Wars under the Disney leadership different. Like, I would have been interested more if they explained why they got rid of Legends. Like, everyone has speculation on that. Did Disney do that because, oh, they would have to pay rights fees? Like, yeah. And then John Ferrer, I believe, or someone else from the Disney Corporation, one of the directors, um, said that they would love to do another Star Wars holiday special. And that's when I realized, I was like, you have to be kidding me. You know how much George Lucas hates that wording. He hates the holiday special. He even admitted if he had time, plenty of time, he would get a sledgehammer and smash every copy of it, regardless of the law. And here's the thing. I'm pretty certain Disney's holiday special would be worse. No, I'm not kidding. At least, here's the thing, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. At least the holiday special from the George Lucas era, at least it showed different aliens. It does show different aspects of the galaxy. It wasn't just the original cast. It showed a civilization. It showed Tatooine more. It showed this bar of all these different aliens instead of just human beings. Yeah, everyone hates it, but at least they did something that was interesting. Show, oh, there's more than just human or human alien creatures. There's these tall, giant gray men. There are these the band that always plays. There's more than just those creatures that we're used to seeing. And here's the thing. Some people speculate a few years back, and here's the thing. I'm pretty sure this apology is more half-assed than ever, because really think about this. You basically are apologizing for saying, we screwed you over 7 years later. This was made in 2012. You basically are saying, we're sorry, but it's 7 years later, so there's really no way to fix this. And then you have to think, and then, like, here's the thing. I really get that the name of the game is making money. But there's also artistic integrity, which is why I've always had people... I had a person always tell me that he writes, how would people feel? They write, let's see, fan fiction, let's go with that. People spend months, days, weeks, years even, working on fan fiction of their favorite characters because they want to tell a tale that's never been done before. They want to try something with these characters, most of the time, except for the ones that just want to bastardize them in ways that I can never understand, because if they don't like these characters, why even write them? If you hate them so much, you're taking the Dan DiDio approach where he will stomp and whine about Wally West and how his mere existence offends him. But anyways, instead of my theory about why Dan DiDio is a crybaby, but yeah, this shows a very questionable thing. Imagine if you did this stuff with your fanfiction where you spent months, days, weeks, years even of crafting this story that you just loved wanting to do so much, and then the company that makes them, or another company that has an idea similar to that, comes in and says, we want to do that, let's do it, and then everyone calls you a hack, say, oh, you didn't come up with this idea, even though the author will say, I did come up with this idea. This was literally my idea. I'm not mad or anything, but everyone's harassing the author or someone, saying you're just a hack, you just stole those ideas, because the bigger company has more notoriety. Even The Last Jedi, here's the thing. The Last Jedi, some of the elements of that movie, and this was confirmed in reports, borrowed elements of a fan fiction. I am not kidding. Disney never confirmed this, but many people who actually read fanfiction, and even apparently some journalists even, were reading fanfiction and then saw The Last Jedi and were like, this is strangely familiar. And then they reread the fanfiction and realized, this is literally from a fanfiction. Yeah, specifically the Rey and Kylo Ren connection. But now it's like you look at these characters, look at the really look at how the Disney Star Wars universe basically is. You have a universe of characters that people grew up with. And this was all because of the other creator, not the Disney Corporation. And you reduce them to being miserable, all their efforts are for nothing, and they die miserably. And then Disney got desperate, and now they've announced that Kevin Feige, the pioneer of Marvel, is coming in to basically save the universe. And I'm thinking, why can't you just get Dave Filoni? You know, the guy who has a personal connection with Lucas, who's basically like his apprentice. You know, the guy who was learning under George Lucas. Why can't you have him be in charge instead of the person that said, and I quote, girls can't connect with Luke or Han Solo because they're men? In fact, that was a weird theory I had regarding Kylo Ren and Finn, like how they were being irrational and whatnot, and how they were going crazy, and how I remember back then the media always kind of had that stereotype for women. I was like, holy crap, don't tell me this is their way of bringing back that stereotype, but putting it for the men and making the women more competent. And then you got this whole Yo Mama joke because that fits in the Star Wars universe. Like in the Legend book, they had a word called Sith Spit, which was essentially a curse word that also mocked the Sith. That makes sense. To me, it did. But now you get all this stuff coming out, and I'm trying to wonder, why did Bob Iger even reveal this? Why would he reveal this less than 3 months before the goddamn finale of the Disney Star Wars universe comes out, and then they were going to make more with the A Star Wars story? But like now you got all this stuff coming in, and now people are catching on. More so, the people who were constantly denying, saying, "No, this is George Lucas's vision. This is always what he envisioned Star Wars coming afterwards. After he gave the license away." I have a friend. He has a huge fan fiction story going on about Ruby, and kind of has become disillusioned with how things have gone on at Rooster Teeth. I won't bring it up, but he said if he ever was given an offer by Rooster Teeth to bring his story to life, he wouldn't accept it. Like, he wouldn't accept a deal with them because of how shaved they've been in the recent years. But yeah, that's basically where we're at. Where now the artist is basically fucked over and the corporation rises. And some people are saying that we are to blame for this because of how we treated George Lucas over the prequel trilogy. Here's the thing, I grew up with the prequel trilogy. I can't bring myself to hate them. Or at least hate them in the way that a lot of people kind of hated them. But you want to know the one thing I can say positive, besides how I view it, because I like the movies regardless of how the writing is. I love the idea, the concepts of what they were doing, and the more expanded viewpoint of the galaxy. But you want to know what that makes me love the prequels more so? Regardless of how much money it made, that was George Lucas's story. That was his story he wanted to tell. Money was probably the big factor in wanting to make these movies, but at the same time, this was his story. This was his baby. And basically, I believe watching the Paul Heyman documentary, Tommy Dreamer described, basically, best way to describe this for Star Wars is how this relationship's like a divorce, and the parent and the mother is now raising the child with the new father, and the other father's trying to come in, trying to help raise the child, but the real new father's like, well, your child lives with me, and this is how it's going to be. Even if the old father, who is the real son of the kid, is the real father of the kid, is like, that's not how I want my child raised. But now he has no right to that child because The legal system said fuck you. So yeah, that's basically what Tommy Jr. was describing ECW's portrayal by WWE, and we all know how that worked out. So yeah, this is basically a fucked up situation all around. Now that Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, has basically confirmed we fucked George Lucas over. I don't know how that phone call went, if they ever did one. But now it's like, what now? How does the fan base as a whole react? Is the division grow more so, or is just now the fandom is united once more now against Disney because now they realize the holy father of Star Wars was fucked over by the Disney regime. So yeah, now you got all this going on, and here's the thing. It was always my opinion on this. Because everyone hated the prequel so much, a lot of people that hated the prequel so much, that gave Disney all the rights to say, we can control Star Wars by force. Because really look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I could look at Guardians of the Galaxy and say, that's a James Gunn movie, not a Disney movie. I could look at Captain America and say, that's the Russo brother movie. That's a Russo brother movie. I could look at Endgame, Infinity War, and say that they're the director's actual vision of how the movie should go. I could look at Spider-Man, and let's not talk about that, but say that's their version of Spider-Man. Like, it's hard to really say on that one because it's Sony and Marvel's debate on that, and especially how Marvel has, in the comics division at least, has felt about Spider-Man as a character. One More Day seriously needs to go away. Anyways. Yeah. This is basically this whole conglomerate corporation versus the artist, and the artist was fucked over big time. The corporation won. The monopoly won. So, now what's gonna happen? Like, Bob Iger's admitted his mistakes. He could fix it. Pretty sure he's not going to, since the board will probably say, we need all the monies. But you have to also contend with, the only way I could realistically see this being fixed is if Bob Iger did several things. Kathleen Kennedy goes, puts Dave Filoni in charge, reboots the trilogy, he can keep his side of the universe, but he goes back and brings back the script in order to have those movies be fully realized, and bring it as a separate continuity. You can bring it into the Legends verse. You could that's what the World Between Worlds keeps making me think. That Dave Filoni, because he was so well known in the animation side of Star Wars, was basically given free reign to do whatever he wants, and he wanted to find a way, an easy way to bring back what fans loved about Star Wars: the mysticism, the aura, the feeling of the Force. And then created this idea that could basically create a multiverse that could bring back all the continuity that we all grew up with for the last, 4 decades. And yet keep the original and keep the Disney's continuity intact, but also give way to multiple continuities they could deal with. But now, and we don't know, J.J. Abrams is working on Star Wars, and now I probably could look, here's the thing. I look at The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and probably I'll look at Episode 9 when I see it, that it's not their film. It's not Rian Johnson's film. It's not J.J. Abrams' film. It's just a Disney film. Because, here's the thing. I looked at some of the deleted scenes of Rian Johnson's Last Jedi, and I keep getting the feeling every time I look at it, it's he had a completely different idea, didn't he? He wanted a depowered Luke, but I don't think he wanted Luke to be that way he was portrayed. Even Mark Hamill disagreed with that. And then you have to also remember, there's also this thing. So, there's a scene that was deleted, which means it's not in canon, unfortunately, where Finn actually brings back continuity bring-up from Episode 7 about Phasma betraying the First Order by lowering the shield instead of, giving up her life for the greater good of the First Order. And the Stormtroopers start to realize, wait, Captain Phasma, is this true? And then Captain Phasma proceeds to kill all the stormtroopers before trying to kill Finn, but failing. And I was like, why was that not in the movie? That actually makes me think that's the Captain Phasma the books were hyping up but never went with. How Captain Phasma is actually a selfish, I'm a survivor and not a loyalist. I'm a survivalist who wants to just survive in life. Like, it would have been interesting. Like, here's the thing. I kept thinking about Captain Phasma and I was like, imagine if they keep her around, if they somehow bring her back, because there is a chance she could come back from that fire, because there's always a different way. What if they do bring her back somehow and they have her switch sides? That fits her survivalist character attitude. I'm like, the Resistance wouldn't trust her, but eventually, imagine if she had to work with Finn and they start to get along and actually, start to realize, and she starts to more warm up to him and become more and more of a person instead of this, I need to survive because I was raised on basically what was Mad Max and Star Wars, which does sound awesome, but still. That would have actually been, interesting and actually kind of a new direction they could go in. But Disney would probably say, no, fuck that. That has to be in the books. Like, there's even a leaked information about Episode 9 where they may not actually explain how the hell Palpatine's back and save that for the books or comics. And I was just thinking, like, okay, please tell me that's not real, because if they really did that in the epic finale that was, quote, decades in the making, not really, but still go with their logic, that would be the biggest slap you could do. Return of the Jedi, while it left a lot of potential opportunities for more movies open, it had a definitive conclusion. You could say the beginning and middle and end, it was totally serviceable. But now, Disney's like, no, everyone's actually ended up being miserable. So, yeah, it's just bad stuff for Star Wars all around. George Lucas feels betrayed. Bob Iger admits, yeah, they fucked him over. Disney fucked him over. Probably Dave Filoni was pissed off about it. I don't know. He and George Lucas were best buddies. Kathleen Kennedy's just their puppet. And I'm pretty sure she was in on the whole scheme too, because she probably didn't like Lucas a lot. They had made promises to him. They lied to them, saying, we're not contractually obligated, so we can say fuck you. And we're still in the moral righteousness, right? Right? So, yeah, those were my thoughts on Bob Iger's excerpt book regarding George Lucas. This was Neo Reality. I'm Tim. For free, like, comment, subscribe, and donate to for more.